Hello and welcome to Trail Chats. I'm your host, Autumn King. Today, we are trekking and chatting with District 1 Councilmember Zac Unger. Come along with us and see what fires we can put out. It's beautiful today.
I know, it's such a perfect day.
I think so. This is the perfect weather for the hikes because it's warm, but nice little breeze. How often do you get out here?
As much as I can. I love hiking in Oakland.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Zac Unger.
Thanks so much for having me.
District 1 Council Member.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here with me today.
It's my pleasure.
You and I were chatting a little bit earlier as we were walking in, and you have an interesting background. But before we dive in there, tell me, how does your Oakland story begin?
Well, we moved to Oakland when I was about 4 years old. My folks moved from San Francisco, and I actually still live on the same street that I grew up on. I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a house up the street from my folks so that my kids could run down to grandma's house, and the people that I grew up mowing their lawns are now the elders on the street, and I can still help take care of them.
So you've always been in the same area,
Yeah.
always been an Oakland boy, rooted.
Yep.
I hear that, I know that you were an Oakland firefighter before becoming a council member. Tell me how you became a firefighter, because I hear that it was an advertisement randomly stumbled upon.
Yeah, I literally saw an ad on a bus bench. Oakland was doing this big, media pitch to hire because they hadn't done hiring in a long time. And I was in graduate school and not particularly enjoying myself, and I saw this ad on a bus bench and I put my name in, and it actually took 2 years from the time I put my name in to the time they hired me. And I figured, I'll just do this for a little while and pay off some school loans or whatever. And as soon as I got in, I never looked back. It was the most wonderful thing.
That is incredible to me on many levels. Number one, I have done marketing and advertising in my professional world. I'm always leery about bench bus ads, and now you have sold me.
Well, we have an example the size of one. At least.
It's a pretty big example and a good one. So you take the test, you are now an Oakland firefighter, you fall in love. What was it that made you fall in love about being a firefighter?
I mean, so many things, like the chance to be so immediately of service to people. Like, you can be a teacher and then maybe somebody will come back 20 years later and say, Mrs. Smith, thank you so much, you did so. But we are showing up for people on their absolute worst day, and our job is to go out into the world and be kind to people and make their situation better. And that sort of instant gratification is really rewarding. And also, it's just fun, right? You're hanging out with your buddies, and then you're going and doing these crazy things that nobody else gets to do. So it's just the combination of everything, the camaraderie and the service together.
I love that. Okay, so then make me understand. You go from being a hero, firefighters are the heroes for the little kids, and you're riding in a red engine, to being an elected official who can be villainized. You took my word, to be villainized. You're a villainous politician now.
I sure am.
And you willingly took that train ride.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I mean, I love Oakland, and I have lived this life of service, and I really think of being a politician as the end of a career in public safety and public service, as opposed to the sort of beginning of a life in politics. And so that chance to use my experience in Oakland, the things I knew about Oakland from being an employee. I was also the president of our union, so I was involved in Oakland politics and Oakland legislation and ballot measures over the years. And so the chance to take that experience and take that sort of get it done quickly service mentality and move it over into a building that is sometimes not seen as quick moving or effective.
What are the biggest differences and similarities to putting out literal fires and putting out political fires?
I think one thing that I always run up against in council is the inability to get things done quickly. When we show up on a fire scene, there's no firefighters for the firefighters to call, right? We have to finish everything off with whatever conditions we have. In City Hall, there are a lot more guardrails. There are more processes to go through, more the process is longer and less easy to just sort of break through a wall, essentially.
Tell me a little bit more about your background. Let's go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
So you were when you saw this advertisement for firefighting, clearly there was something in you already connecting that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
You know, I'd always been a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I worked as a river raft guide. I worked for the National Park Service. So I'd always been sort of an outdoors person who wanted to sort of have that physicality in addition to an intellectual life. And so that opportunity of doing those sort of difficult, challenging, adrenaline-fueled activities really appealed to me.
Firefight, that's, okay. I don't think you're seeing that. That seems like a leap. That seems like, so there was forest grazing in your past as well?
Yeah, I got a master's degree in range management, and I actually worked on a cattle ranch for a couple of years.
Okay, and that was at Deep Springs?
At Deep Springs, yeah.
So Deep Springs was your undergrad?
So that was the first 2 years of my undergrad.
Okay.
It's a very odd 2-year college in the middle of the desert.
Focus on literature.
Yeah, literature, history, philosophy. So it's about 30 kids in the middle of the desert, absolutely in the middle of nowhere. It is free, it's student run, and the students all work on this cattle ranch while they're going to school. The faculty is all on sabbatical from East Coast schools, and the students. I mean, I was the dean of admissions. We were hiring the faculty as a 19-year-old. It's a really amazing place.
That's really interesting, actually, that you had that duality of being able to be a student and an administrator at the same time.
Yeah.
So you were able to say what you wanted and receive what you wanted at the same time. Yeah. So then you were finished at Deep Springs and you went off to Brown University. Tell me about that.
So I went to Brown. I transferred there as a junior, studied environmental science.
Okay.
You know, still trying to sort of be in that sort of outdoors world. On the East Coast, environmental science means something really different than the West Coast.
Watch it. I'm an East Coaster, so
well,
watch it.
In my mind, you know, environmental science is like where we are now, right?
Yeah.
You know, in the trees, outdoors. On the East Coast, it's more about like, you know, mass transportation and leaking underground storage tanks and, you know, sort of like cleaning up brownfields. That kind of
Councilmember,
thing.
I was really vibing this conversation for a little while, but I'm gonna we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going with this connection. So after Brown, clearly you weren't going to stay on the East Coast.
Right.
So you came back this way to do what?
So I had a year in between college and grad school, and I did a bunch of different environmental jobs. I worked in Utah for the Park Service with peregrine falcons. I worked out on the Farallon Islands, you know, about 30 miles off the coast of San Francisco, with elephant seals and seabirds. And then I also worked up in northern Washington doing some surveying work.
You are a nature guy.
Yeah.
I love that. Can we start walking a little bit
Absolutely.
and chat some more
Let's
about
do it.
nature?
I'd love to.
Let's do it. That is a pretty long and involved resume of outdoors.
Yeah, no, I feel really fortunate.
And it's vast.
I've been really fortunate to be in some of the most beautiful places.
I will tell you my elephant sea story. I was born and raised in New York, and I've lived here in Oakland for 18 years. Years ago, I took the place. So we've been talking about your background, where you are now, and we touched on the craze of moving from flaming buildings, literally, to metaphorical fires around the city. I would imagine moving into public office, moving into that kind of public life is complex. What do you do to maintain and look after your own mental and emotional health?
Yeah, so for me, exercise is really important. I swim every morning, and that hour in the pool where nobody can call me on the phone, nobody can text me, and where I can kind of be with my own thoughts is really important. And sort of maintaining that physical part of me is really integral to maintaining the mental part of me. And then just coming out into the woods, you know, being places like this. Lake Temescal, you know, I got to give D1 some love. Lake Temescal is my family's place. We went there, you know, every Wednesday night when my kids were young. We would have a picnic and just, you know, taking walks with friends in the woods. Trying to really maintain those friendships, I think, is super important.
It's grounding. Being out here makes you realize how small you are in comparison to everything around here. You can breathe a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. You are a steward of the land, clearly. You wrote 2 books, one of which is called...
Never Look a Polar Bear in the Eye.
Never Look a Polar Bear in the Eye.
Yeah.
I would never look a polar bear in the eye, Mr. Unger. So tell me why you are telling us not to.
So this was a reported book about polar bears and how they are doing with climate change. And that was, I took my family up to this place in the middle of the Canadian Arctic where there are polar bears all over. And one of the pieces of advice I got from an old timer up there was never look a polar bear in the eye. If they're coming for you, you just kind of have to be deferential because you know that the polar bear is in charge no matter what.
So I think if I have this correct, do you know this saying? If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down. If it's white, out of sight.
I thought if it's white, give up the fight.
Yeah, I think it's something. It was something to that effect. Like you're going down,
yes.
So don't do anything.
Yeah, polar bears are one of the few animals that will actually hunt people, and so most animals will attack if they're scared or you get between the mama and the cub or something like that. But polar bears will smell you and think that's dinner.
Wow. Yeah. Never look a polar bear in the eye.
Yeah.
I'm with that. Tell me more about the book and climate change and kind of your stance.
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea for the book was to sort of report on the death of polar bears because of climate change, but the actual story ended up being much more complex and nuanced. And at the end, it was really a story about how science is used and misused by advocacy groups and how polar bears became sort of a political football. Like, you tell me what you think about abortion, I can probably tell you what you think about polar bears, because they've become sort of a football in the culture wars and in the political wars.
Interesting. I never thought about the polar bears being a casualty of war in that sense.
Yeah.
And what does that also set off as a chain for other advocacy or areas in which you're advocating?
Yeah, so I wrote this book, that was 7 or 8 years ago, and I was really worried about how scientists were allowing themselves to be pulled into advocacy roles and how political groups were using scientists in advocacy roles. And I was worried that this was going to lead to a situation where scientists could no longer be trusted as apolitical. And then what do you know, a couple of years later, we went right into COVID, and all of a sudden, science was up for debate as opposed to being something that is just a pure scientific fact.
How does that apply to you here in Oakland? What are your connections with the environment, with advocacy, with policymaking in your role as council member?
I mean, we can look at it on a metaphorical level about how everything is much more nuanced than you think it would be. Like, I went up there just to write this book, polar bears are all dying. And it turned out that was not the case for a variety of different reasons. And so the ability to change your mind when circumstances change is really important, because we all go into a lot of things thinking we know everything. And one thing I've learned as a council member is there's a lot of things I really don't know. And the ability to have that freedom of mind and to change your mind is key.
Talk to me about that. What has been the most rewarding thing or change since the transition into public life? And what's been that moment where you're like, oh shoot, I thought I'd be able to X, and really I'm...
Right. I was a little worried when that came into this role that it was going to be sort of nonstop futility, and instead I found it to be stop and start futility, which is really gratifying. There's a lot we can really get done. The difficult stuff is often just the very neighborhood level problems, like why can't we get this sidewalk fixed? Why is this tree still, overhanging somebody's house in a risky way? And, those sorts of things, some of them we're able to fix. Yeah. Some of them, people have been reporting the same problems for years and we just aren't able to.
And you're just as frustrated at times because
Absolutely.
You are a resident, and I want to just point that out. You don't have the ability to direct a department head to do something. So you don't have the ability to pick up the phone and say, this tree root has been upending the sidewalk for the last 5 years, get it done now because I'm council member.
Exactly.
So I can understand that, the tying of your hands. What else do you feel has shifted in you, in your being? You served Oakland behind a red truck with a siren, and now you are leading with a siren pretty loudly.
Yeah. Well, I used to love to jaywalk all the time, but now I feel like there's a spotlight on me and I can't, I gotta, follow the red light, but that's minor. I think that...
I'm a New Yorker. I like, it's part of life. You go into the middle of the street. If there's an opening, there's an opening.
Yeah. I think, as the union president and the firefighters, I understood the fire department really, really well. Yeah. And there are so many other facets of Oakland that I don't understand nearly as well. And one thing that I've been trying to do is really lean on people who understand things better than I do, because I am not shy about saying the things that I don't know. And there's so much expertise in Oakland. There are so many smart people who've been working on things, just even little niche things. And so I don't need to understand everything, but I need to understand who I can trust, and I need to figure out how to find the people who are smart about things and then go to them for help. And so that has been a learning process of trying to figure out who the experts are, who you can listen to, and how we can bring people together to solve problems.
Let's talk a little bit more about Oakland, figure out what you're thinking about next steps.
Sounds good.
Let's head this way.
Okay.
I've definitely had you out for a while, so I appreciate it.
It's been fun.
We can have just a few, if you don't mind, indulging me in a few more questions.
Happy to.
Talk to me about your vision for Oakland.
You know, I think everyone's vision for Oakland is more or less the same. We want a city that's safe, that's clean, and that's sustainable. How we get there is where the friction comes in, but I think obviously safety is a primary concern, and to me, safety means a lot of things. It means police, it means fire, it means ceasefire. You know, we could even broaden it out. Safety probably means, you know, healthcare and education and all of those things that go into producing, you know, strong members of society. But I think right now we need to get our fiscal house in order. Passing this budget was a really big step, but we have really difficult long-term issues that we have to deal with in terms of financial sustainability.
What does District 1 look like for you over the next 3.5 years?
Mm-hmm. I think we need to continue to make our commercial corridors more vibrant, help small businesses relocate to Oakland, help small businesses who are already here sustain themselves in Oakland. That crime is a big part of that, making sure the streets are clean and making sure that people feel safe and comfortable coming out to shop.
Shout out a couple of neighborhoods in District 1 that you like to go to and hang out.
I mean, I could go all day about District 1. But,
okay, here we go, Oakland boy.
I mean, Temescal, fantastic. So many great restaurants. I mean, that's the center of our food scene. Piedmont Avenue is great. Rockridge is fantastic. Golden Gate, Bushrod Park is incredible.
Bushrod Park is kind of dope. Bushrod Park is dope.
Everything on San Pablo Ave, that's a sort of a bustling commercial area that's about to come into its own in a new way. We got a lot of restaurants relocating there, so I'm excited about all the opportunities.
Okay, I got to tell you, we've been chatting about firefighter enthusiasm and just that excitement. Yeah. You just lit up when you talked about District 1. When you talked about Oakland, you were there, you were smiling. When you talked about District 1 just now, you lit up, and that Cheshire cat smile is still there. Yeah. What does District 1 mean to you, and what does it mean to be able to represent your district? You know,
I've spent my whole life in District 1. My kids have spent their whole lives in District 1. This is really home in a deep, fundamental way. And so the ability to represent District 1 and to learn more about District 1 and to be in community with people in District 1 has been just the greatest gift of my life.
I love it. I love the enthusiasm. I love the love that you have. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I know that you're extremely busy, meetings back to back, but you took a moment to take a walk. You took a moment to breathe and hang out with me in nature, and I appreciate that.
Thanks for bringing me out here. I've had a great time. It's wonderful.
It's been good. Yeah. How about we continue to chat as we walk over to get you back to City Hall?
Okay. Do I have to?
I mean, I'm going to play in the woods a little longer if you want to stay.
All right.
Okay. We can cut around.
Okay.
Let's see.
Look at all these dogs.
I know, right? Good morning, everyone. Okay,